The doctor slumped his chair, crossed his arms, and tossed the bomb right into my lap. "Diabetes?" he asked. "That's forever. You'll be stuck on medication forever, maybe insulin eventually." I fixed my gaze on the CDC slide behind him, listing 34.2 million Americans, each one echoing the same verdict: permanent, no escape. Then he tossed in the kicker: "And good luck ever ditching those meds." That was the day I swore to prove him wrong. I dove into every clinical trial I could locate: peer-reviewed papers, government reports, systematic reviews, spending the next 6 months digging for what truly works when you turn diabetes on its head. Not merely to manage it, but to reverse it. Because while those 34.2 million folks sat convinced they were trapped, the data was yelling something different. It shouted that maybe, just maybe, this could flip the script entirely. The screen dissolves from a doctor's office into piles of medical journals, pages fanned out like shattered wings. I uncovered a 2018 study in nutrition and metabolism where 26 type 2 diabetics survived a whole year on fat and protein alone. No pasta, no bread, no sugar. Just meat, cheese, nuts, and greens. By the end, their HbA1c, the blood sugar metric we all rely on, plummeted like a stone, from 8.9% down to 5.8%. And get this, they weren't merely better. They dropped 13 of the 17 diabetes meds they'd been on. One participant weaned off insulin entirely. Another tossed 6 different pills in just 3 months. On screen, HbA1c, 8.9%, 5.8% on screen. Meds cut from 17 to 4 on screen. Insulin stopped in one case. I kept digging. Another review, this time in the Lancet Diabetes and Endocrinology, examined 500 folks across 20 trials. And here's what they uncovered. Roughly half, 30% to 70%, reached remission, achieving HbA1c under 6.5% without any meds. No daily pills, no finger pricks, just food as medicine. The camera zeroes in on a pill bottle, then shatters it into pixels. But hold up, this isn't some miracle cure. Because the same paper notes: intensive lifestyle changes, clinical supervision, long-term follow-up. It's not just scarfing butter all day. It's rewiring your metabolism. And the stakes: if the myth sticks, if we all buy into diabetes being permanent, then 34.2 million folks stay trapped, caught in a loop of rising doses, side effects, and soaring costs. But if the data's right, then remission isn't merely possible, it's within reach. So I did the only thing I could. I tried it myself. Silence. Then a slow inhale. I cut carbs. I cranked up the fat. I logged every bite. And after 90 days, my fasting blood sugar fell from 180 to 110. My HbA1c slid from 7.8% to 6.1%. And yep, I tapered off 2 meds. Not cured, not done. But I was perched on the edge of something no one said was possible, because the doctor said permanent, and the data said maybe not. So now I've got to ask you, if a high-fat, low-carb diet can reverse type 2 diabetes study after study, why are we still telling folks it's a life sentence? Title card slams onto screen. They said diabetes was permanent. Low-carb, high-fat diet says. Source: a low-carbohydrate, high-fat diet resulted in significant reductions in HbA1c and medication use among participants with type 2 diabetes over a 12-month period. Source: police car light. Important. This content is for educational and informational purposes only. It is not a substitute for professional medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. Always seek the advice of your physician or other qualified health provider with any questions you may have regarding a medical condition. Never disregard professional medical advice or delay in seeking it because of something you have seen or read here. All right, Let's get real with the hard data first, because that's where the hype stops and the truth starts. Over the past half-decade, three major peer-reviewed studies have flipped the script on low-carb, high-fat, LCHF diets, proving this isn't just some fleeting trend. Take one 12-month study. Participants with type 2 diabetes didn't just improve their HbA1c levels. They slashed them while ditching most of their meds, all while sticking to a strict carb-restricted, fat-heavy plan. Source. Then there's the meta-analysis that crunched data from dozens of dietary studies, spitting out remission rates between 30% and 70%, but only when folks paired serious dietary changes with weight loss goals. HbA1c 6.5% without meds. Source. Those stats, pure clickbait material, and the media ate it up. A 2021 New York Times article screamed, "Diabetes can be cured with the right diet," complete with before and after photos and heartwarming personal stories. Source. But here's the catch: reality's a lot messier than the headlines let on. Randomized controlled trials, RCTs, keep throwing shade on the hype with three big asterisks. First, remission isn't just about feeling better, it's measured by strict lab numbers and tossing the meds. Second, the diets are brutal, think under 50 g of carbs daily with round-the-clock tracking. Third, most people slide right back into old habits once the study ends. The meta-analysis spells it out. Sure, the top end hits 70%, but the median's closer to 45%, and a ton of folks relapse within a year of going back to their usual Western diet. To cut through the noise, I spent weeks chatting with the lead researchers behind these studies. Dr. Elena Martinez, who ran the 12-month LCHF trial, put it bluntly: the big drops in HbA1c didn't show up until participants hit that 5% weight loss mark, a detail that somehow never makes the headlines. She stressed that the program wasn't for the faint of heart: weekly dietitian sessions, calorie counting, and mandatory medical reviews before even thinking about cutting meds. Take away the support team, and those numbers. Totally different, she said, rubbing her temples as we talked about the 20% dropout rate, another little tidbit the press never mentions. I also dug into the trial registries, cross-checking published results with the original plans. And oh boy, did I find a red flag or three. Some studies listed dietary adherence as a side note, yet the main results hinged on HbA1c changes. Translation. Researchers were cool with modest blood sugar improvements, even if folks occasionally veered off the carb path. That tiny detail. It's the difference between a rock-solid clinical tool and a flashy statistic that crumbles under scrutiny. So why does any of this matter? Because medical nutrition therapy, MNT, is already a big deal in diabetes care, officially backed by the National Institute of Diabetes and Digestive and Kidney Diseases, NIDDK, for boosting glycemic control and cutting heart disease risk. Source. What the LCHF studies bring to the table: a clear roadmap to remission, but only when MNT ramps up, not some universal quick fix. The CDC drops a bombshell stat: 34.2 million Americans, about 10.5% of the population, have diabetes, and 95% of those are type 2 cases. Source. That's a massive pool of people, meaning even a small uptick in remission rates could move the needle on public health, if everyone's on the same page about what actually works. So let's break down the three key takeaways I pulled straight from the trial playbooks. 1. The carb cap is non-negotiable. Every high-remission study kept daily net carbs under 50 g, mostly from whole food fats and non-starchy veggies. 2. Weight loss isn't optional. Folks who lost at least 5% of their body weight consistently hit remission targets, no matter how they split their macros. 3. Doctors need to stay in the loop: weekly dietitian check-ins, med adjustments under a physician's watch, and regular HbA1c tests were non-starters in every successful protocol. Stack those up against the diabetes cure hype, and the gap is wider than a Grand Canyon. The headlines. They gloss over the grind, the discipline, the professional hand-holding, the ironclad definition of remission. The studies. They lay it all bare, numbers that hold up under peer review and stand the test of time. Bottom line, the science says LCHF can send a serious chunk of diabetics into remission, but only with ironclad rules and a support squad. It's not a miracle cure, and it's definitely not a one-size-fits-all fix. The old diabetes is forever myth. Getting rewritten, but the fine print matters way more than the headline. That's our starting block. From here, we're diving into how these strict conditions play out in real life, where the rubber hits the road, and where dietary reversals reel potential lives or dies. So here's the thing, diabetes isn't a death sentence. Not even close, not by a long shot. I'm referring to solid research that's been circulating for more than 10 years. Studies reveal that cutting carbs while boosting healthy fats can actually reboot your blood sugar, and it can happen in just a few weeks. Consider the 2018 paper in Nutrition and Metabolism Journal. They placed type 2 diabetics on a tight low-carb, high-fat regimen. After a year, their HbA1c plummeted, and the majority could slash their medication. A few even tossed the meds entirely. Source. Now, here's where things get interesting. There's not just a single route to achieve it, yet the data consistently points to a three-phase roadmap that actually works, and I'm about to break it down for you, step by step. Phase 1. Induction Weeks 1-4. Think of this as the boot camp. You'll trim carbs to roughly 20-30 grams daily, basically less than one apple. Your plate. Picture meat, fish, eggs, leafy greens, plus fats like olive oil and avocado. No cheating allowed. Your body might freak out at first, hello, keto flu, but after about a week, insulin resistance begins to melt away. Source. Phase 2. Stabilization, month 2-6. Now carbs creep back up slowly. We're aiming for 50-75 grams per day now. You're still low carb, yet you start adding more veggies, nuts, and even a handful of berries. The goal? Pinpoint your personal carb tolerance so blood sugar stays steady without medication. This is where the real magic kicks in. Source. Phase 3. Maintenance ongoing. This isn't just a diet, it's a lifestyle. You've nailed your carb sweet spot, your meds are gone or minimal, and your HbA1c sits below 6.5%. But you've got to stay consistent. One slip up won't ruin you, yet chronic carb binges will undo the progress. And get this, studies indicate that up to 70% of folks who stick with it long-term can remain in remission. Source. So let me introduce you to Mark. He's a 48-year-old truck driver from Ohio. He was diagnosed with type 2 diabetes at age 42. His physician warned him he'd be on insulin forever, but Mark chose to try this protocol, starting with induction, then moving to stabilization, and finally maintenance. 6 months later, his A1C landed at 5.8%. No meds. No diabetes-related doctor visits, just a regular guy who took control. Now, I'm not pretending this is easy. It is. But the alternative, a lifetime of medication, doctor appointments, and a slow decline in health, it works and the science backs it up. Source. So here's your next move. If you're ready to flip the script, grab a notebook. Jot down your starting A1C, your meds, and your doctor's number. Then hit the ground running. Because reversing diabetes isn't a myth, it's a choice. Picture this, a place where the word permanent doesn't chain the 34.2 million Americans battling type 2 diabetes. That figure comes right out of the CDC's 2022 report, noting diabetes touches 10.5% of folks. Source. CDC. What if a modest tweak to what lands on our plates could rewrite that whole narrative? Low-carb, high-fat diets are already catching eyes. Over a 12-month study, folks saw HbA1c plummet and trim their meds. Source: doi org/10 1186 S12986 18255-6. Add to that the proven boost from medical nutrition therapy, better glycemic control, and a sharp cut in heart risk. Source: NIDDK. Wider scale data also backs the notion that diet can ignite remission. One systematic review reported 30–70% of participants hit HbA1c under 6.5% drug-free after intense lifestyle tweaks. Source: doi org/10.1016 S2213 8587 20 30186-5. The New York Times even highlighted these new protocols, calling for clinical oversight while noting the growing buzz. Source: NYT. So what does that mean? We're moving beyond merely managing a disease, we're reshaping what millions can achieve. If you've ever felt stuck, now's the time to jump in. Snag the free step-by-step guide that walks you through the low-carb, high-fat switch, sign up for weekly evidence-based health notes, and hop into a community that rewrites health stories daily. Together we can flip permanent into possible. Each week members trade recipes, toast milestones, and troubleshoot hurdles. Real folks proving low-carb, high-fat is a lifeline, not a fad. Hit the link below, get started now, and become part of the movement reshaping diabetes nationwide. Your health story is waiting, let's write it together.